afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Crystal, and this is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown podcast in my living room. Oddly enough, for the last 10 years, I said at KUWS Studios, but now I get to say in my living room. And via speakerphone, I have James McNally from the band Voquel Kemistry. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Excellent. Well, it finally warmed up here in Duluth, Minnesota. I don't know how New York has been treating you weather-wise, but I'm loving it.
Yeah, I am actually coming to you right now from Boston, and it's pretty nice. It's 75 and sunny. Might get some rain showers later, but we'll see.
Oh, nice. I am so glad we're on the same playing field. Oh, that sounds lovely.
All right. I'm outside right now trying to go for a nice little walk.
Yeah, I'm going to do that after this too. Sadly, I am inside right now. But anyway, I digress. So, James, you're from the band Voquel Kemistry, and your name is kind of interesting. Honestly, when I read it the first time, it reminded me of Black Audio. They don't spell black the traditional way. They have a Q in there instead of a C. And your band, Voquel Kemistry, you could almost pronounce it Voquel Kemistry. to get the Q in there.
So just so the listener is aware, the name is spelled Voquel, Voquel Kemistry with a K. And we just kind of wanted to mess with the spelling. One of our biggest influences, as with many bands out there, is the Beatles. And, they just came up with that, I assume, because, they make great beats, if you will. So then they took the word beat and applied it to a beetle, which for years I actually thought beetle the bug was spelled Beatle, just like them. And then I realized that the real word beetle has two E's. Yes. So I thought if they could do it, come up with an alternative spelling, we could do it. And, to come up with kind of a normal name and just to mess with the spelling just enough so that people can, it sticks in their mind, if you will.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's got a unique kind of punch to it. I enjoy unique band names quite a bit, so thank you for allowing me to digress into that a little bit. And now I'm looking at your Facebook page. That's kind of how we met the first time over chat. It looks like you have quite a few members in your band.
Yeah, so over the years, we have cycled through a few members. We've been playing together for about 7 years, so it's been a while. Back in the day, we started out with the original 5. So the original 5 was myself, our lead guitarist, O'Neill Donnie, his little brother, the keyboardist, Jonathan Donnie. Then we had rhythm guitarist Scott Russo and drummer Lyndon Ambry. So that was the original 5. But over the years, we've kind of changed our numbers a little bit. Lyndon and Scott, they both moved away, so they were out of the picture. So basically, the vocal chemistry that is recording today and that people know today is just myself, Jonathan, and O'Neill. So myself, I write the songs, I sing the songs and the harmonies. O'Neill writes the lead guitar parts, and Jonathan writes the keyboard parts or the bass parts, if we have that. So those are the 3 that we're working with primarily. Every once in a while, we will, stumble across a drummer. I know that's a common theme with a lot of bands is recycling the drummer. It is very hard for whatever reason to find a drummer that will stick around for the long haul. Right now we're working with a very talented drummer. She's actually a girl. Her name is Savine. She is from France. So we actually get to record with her when she is around in the States. She does have dual citizenship. So when she's around, that's phenomenal. When she's not, we tend to just do acoustic stuff. And I actually play drums as well. So sometimes I will go and we'll do kind of a multi-layered recording where I'll lay down the drum track first and then go back and kind of take care of the vocals later. So we kind of we're more of a recording band than a playing out live band. We do play out live when we can, but we're really focused on just mastering our sound in the studio and getting it out to people that way. And we figure in kind of a digital world, that's really the way to go, is to master that, send it out, via the internet and get sort of publicity going that way.
Yeah. And James, I did notice that too, that you seem to do a lot of work on your Facebook page, actually. And, I guess it's not shocking to me now that bands don't have a website, but it was kind of refreshing to just have everything just kind of cycled right on your Facebook page, like the one-stop shop.
Yeah. So we do go down a couple of different avenues. So we are on Spotify, we're on Amazon, YouTube, but
iTunes.
Again, as you said, Facebook is definitely our main avenue and the one that we try to, get people to see the most, because like you said, it is a one-stop shop. It does have all the YouTube, it's got the Spotify links. So if you want to check out the band, that is, really the place to go. And we're really working on some other avenues at this point right now. As I said, we kind of just hid away in the studio for a while. And actually for a number of years, I would say 2 years, we really didn't have much of a presence online or on YouTube or Spotify or anything. Our main focus was just to get this sound as perfect and as close to what we want as it could possibly be, before we go out there and share it with the world. Not that we're embarrassed of the stuff we did before, but we want it to be at that caliber that we know we can be at before we go and share it with anybody else. And we believe that we've achieved that. More or less at this point, we can always get better, but we've really achieved that benchmark that we wanted to. And so at this point, we're just kind of exploring different avenues of, okay, great, we have the sound. Now how can we get people to actually hear it? And when I say people, I mean, a wide variety of people outside of our little circle of influence here in Boston.
Good, great. And now, to the note of, you really honed in on your studio work, really got that going, didn't really push anything out on the internet until you knew you had what you wanted. There was, I'm going to say was, because I don't know if they play out here anymore, there was a local band here in Duluth, and I ran merch for them a couple times, and, they were young, they were still figuring it out, which is fine. They had everything, and I'm talking stickers, buttons, t-shirts, all of it, except their music recorded. And that to me just kind of I was a little taken aback, because I had so many people come up and ask, well, don't they have anything? Are they on Bandcamp, iTunes? Well, why don't they have a CD? Why don't, because you want to take that music home. I mean, to me, that's kind of what it is, unless you're doing like a cover band, like Hairball, for instance. I mean, they just do the classic rock stuff. Well, I mean, if you want to go listen to Alice Cooper, then go pick up his album, But if you want to go see Alice Cooper, not Alice Cooper, and pay those ticket prices, then go see Hairball, And they've made a living that way. But I think it's funny.
It's funny to see how really part of the definition of a band is creating an image. And that's one of the things that I've realized over the years. Some of these kind of new, crazier artists that you see, that they're really all about image. Like, what image can we send to the public about who this person or who this band is? And that's one of the things I've noticed. And it's funny that you say that. Now that we have recordings that we are, generally satisfied with.
Yeah.
Our kind of our main objective now is to just really brand ourselves and get ourselves out there, and that's the trouble with making it, so to speak, as a band, is we don't know shit about marketing. We don't know anything. We're not business people. We are people who hang around and try to make the best music that we can. And if that includes hiding ourselves away for a while, then that's what we'll do. If that includes playing out, that's also what we'll do. We try to do a little bit of both. But at this point, we're really focusing on, how can we create this image of what vocal chemistry is, and how can we really get it out there. And I guess at the end of the day, you could say we don't really have an image. We are just three guys who genuinely believe in what we're doing, and really want to get these tracks out there. One of the things I always say is I'm not a fan of genre descriptions. I'm not a fan of images, because I believe that they're really limiting. If I just define myself and my band to one image, well, what does that say? People are going to just assume that everything that we create from this point is going to fit either that image or that genre. And if you listen to a lot of the stuff we did, it's, some of it is similar, but some of it, you would say, maybe even a different artist made this, other than the sound of my voice. We're really all over the place genre-wise. And one of my biggest goals is to kind of break down that genre barrier. I want people to listen to an album of mine and say from one song to the next, I want them to say, wait a minute, did I just switch to a different band? Did I just change playlists? Like, who am I listening to right now? That's the kind of intrigue that I want. I want to keep people on their toes in terms of themes, in terms of melodic sounds, and this so hated word of mine, genre, that I would like to break down sort of as soon as I can.
Yeah. So, James, you are not a label person at all.
No. And one of my most hated questions is when I meet a stranger, or even if it's not a stranger, if it's an acquaintance or something, and I tell them I'm in a band, that's always one of the first questions. Oh, what kind of music do you play? And I got in the habit of coming up with a somewhat humorous answer. I would always tell them that I play psychedelic reggae gospel. That is my genre. Psychedelic reggae gospel. Which is not exactly true, but it's kind of a joke, and it's kind of just to break down that genre barrier, because those three words are quite loosely related, if at all. So I say that to them, and they're like, "What do you mean?" And then I get a little chuckle sometimes, and then after that point, I'll just say, "Oh, I play rock." Like it's such an all-encompassing word that goes down so many avenues, so many genres, so many sounds. So that just sums it up and just say, "I play rock."
Yeah.
Like, one of our biggest influences, the Beatles. You look up their Wikipedia page or whatever, and it just says rock. But that does not. That word is pretty weak description when it comes to everything that they did in terms of innovating sounds and everything. So if that umbrella is big enough to fit them underneath it, then it's going to fit me underneath it as well in my band. So
right.
Rock. Yeah, rock is where we land there.
Excellent, James. And, talking about being non-kind of genre conforming, that reminds me of a good friend of mine, Rob Nelson. And he's put out a bunch of different CDs. He does all the mastering, all the vocals, all the instruments, everything himself. He does a lot of synthesizer and keyboard work. So I suggest checking him out. He's very non-genre based as well, but he's more into kind of the synth side of things rather than the heavy guitar. So I think that's kind of cool that there are bands out there that want to break those molds and want to, change the way music is heard. Just because, and like you had said, I guess I'm reiterating here, so many people are kind of shoved into that category, especially if you get into the, record label artists. What are you? Oh, you're pop, but you're pop country, or you're pop rock, or whatever that is.
And it's so funny. It's in the description. It's literally, you get signed to a label, then you have a label for the like you are labeled as that genre, and you are essentially prohibited from doing anything else.
Right.
And that's really great. I would definitely check him out. We're not the only ones. I love the fact that there are definitely a lot of other artists out there who are trying to break down these barriers. I feel like a big problem is it's hard to get noticed if you don't subscribe to one image or one genre, because from what I've seen, a lot of these labels, they want a very, very particular sound, and that's not true about all of them, but just as a generalization, most labels want a very particular sound. So when we submit to labels, we kind of try to find the song that we have that is closest to what they want. And, you can't have success without failure. So, we've been rejected from a ton of labels, but I love it. I love the fact that we're getting noticed. Like, hey, they listened to my stuff. And probably my least favorite response that I've gotten is, oh, I'm sorry, I really like your music, but we don't play that kind of music. I said, what do you mean you don't play that kind of music? If you like it, you like it.
Right.
And if you like it as somebody who works at a record label, I would assume that other people would like it as well. But that was just, one of the things that yanked my chain a little bit. Oh, I really like it, but we don't play that kind of music. Or what do you mean that kind of music? You didn't have a word to describe it. It's so funny.
Right. Or the other side of that, you just never hear from them again, and you gotta assume your record went in the garbage or something, like.
Right, or just unnoticed, never opened. Yeah, but like I say, there's no way to success without failure. So generally speaking, I love those responses of, oh, we have too many acts right now, or I like it but we have too many acts right now. It's good to hear that feedback, but that was one of the ones that really bothered me. Oh, we don't play that kind of music. It's so funny. You're just gonna limit yourself to just one kind of music.
Right. And I mean, the wider world out there today is so open to so many different kinds of music and so many different acts. And I mean, even on Amazon, if you click on, like, for example, Tegan and Sarah, back when I started listening to that act, I had 12 different recommendations pop up for acts that sounded similar or had toured with them before or whatever it was. And then that kind of branches out from there. So, I mean, I know a lot of people who limit themselves to, punk music or goth music or, the classic rock 70s stuff, but you can't limit yourself to that, because then you don't open up those venues and open up those conversations, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here. So, James, applause for you for trying to break down those barriers, sir.
Yeah, I'm still trying. I will always be still trying. One day at a time, absolutely.
Exactly.
If an observer looked at the music that I listen to on Spotify, they might think that I'm mentally insane. I have 90s rap. I have John Coltrane all the way back to jazz. I got some reggae. I got some gospel music. I got classic rock, just like standard classic rock. I got some punk music. So I'm just all over the place.
Yeah. And that sounds like my iPhone.
Yeah. I can find influences. This is one thing I love about making music is I can really find influences in genres that don't even necessarily sound like mine.
Okay.
For instance, one of my favorite artists out there, and not just because he just died, is Mac Miller. I've been listening to Mac Miller since I was about 14 years old. So ever since he came out. And his stuff, I mean, it's pretty much rap. So it's really not the style that we do at all. But I think influence as an artist really goes deeper than the format. You know, you can have a message that you deliver with your music in a variety of formats. And I'll recognize that his format, his delivery style is quite different than ours. Mm-hmm. But just in terms of the message that he tries to send in these kind of lyrical things that he's come up with, these phrasing structures, I mean, I try to employ that, and he was a huge inspiration, even across genre like that. So that's another point about how we can sort of begin to break down these walls here that we've constructed over the years.
Yeah, excellent. And now, James, you said that you've been at this for about 7 years. How did this really start? I mean, you kind of alluded to you and some friends got together, started jamming out, stuff like that. You do all the lyrics, you do all the vocals for it. Really, what kind of kicked this off for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in the day, and I'm talking 7 years ago now at the start, we were, so whole history here, yeah. We were exclusively a cover band. Okay. And back then, we didn't really move around too much, actually, genre-wise. That was kind of a new development, a new mentality. We would cover a lot of Sublime back then. We loved Sublime. Cover a lot of Third Eye Blind, a lot of Oasis songs. Just to name a few different bands out there. We love that like upbeat kind of reggae sound. And to be honest with you, I don't even really know how to describe the music of Third Eye Blind. I guess it's a little bit of rock, a little bit of alternative. And so that's
90s
what we
alternative
really back in the day. And we kind of wanted to just master those particular sounds. We love those bands so much, especially Oasis. That was sort of our number one. And we really wanted to master how do these guys produce such amazing music lyrically, melodically, and all of that. So we were primarily a cover band. It wasn't until I would say at least a couple of years later, so maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, I think 4 years ago now, that we really started exploring our own original music. And it was when I was in my 3rd year of college. I went to a college that I didn't necessarily like. It had a small population that I didn't necessarily mesh with. I was always kind of a misfit, a black sheep, if you will. So what I would do is I would just, retreat to my room with my few friends sometimes, other times alone, and I would sit down and I would say, if they can do it, right, if Oasis, Third Eye Blind, they can write these beautiful tracks, what do they have that I don't? I know how to play the guitar, I know all my basic chords and scales and a little bit more than that. And what I figured out is more than just the technicality of knowing the chords, knowing what chords go together, what scales go together, et cetera, et cetera. It's really more about the inspiration and the spirit behind the music. And I slowly started to realize that some of my favorite songs ever, not all of them, but some of my favorite songs ever are simple, are melodically and chord-wise pretty simple. Okay. And I found out that you don't need to come up with a groundbreaking chord progression to make an amazing song. I mean, it helps. Don't get me wrong. It definitely helps. But you don't need to do it that way. And when I slowly started to figure that out, I began to write my first couple of songs. And they started out with just those simple chords, those simple progressions. And, of course, we eventually advanced from there. But I try to never forget that fact of when I first started out songwriting, even before I knew anything, I just remember some of my favorite songs are simple. And it's more than just the technicality of the music. It's about what message are you trying to get across here? And I never try to forget the importance of the lyrics and of just a simple melody, even when I am nowadays messing around with, more advanced chord progressions and sounds like that. So even as our sound develops, I want to never forget that, and never forget kind of the times when I discovered that fact about myself and my band.
Mm-hmm. All right. Excellent, James. Thank you so much. You've answered most of my questions.
Yeah, I tend to. I am a big talker, so no problem at all.
No.
Every time that my band needs to be represented in any way, or I speak for the band. I am the representative.
Yep, and that's
so
why you're the front man.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, James, did you get any formal training or anything, or was it just kind of on your own whim to pick up the guitar, pick up the drums, and kind of start singing?
Great question. So I sang just by myself since I was a little kid. I mean, even when I was 5 years old, way back then, I was singing just the Backstreet Boys songs and everything that was popular back then. There's a couple videos my parents took of me singing Backstreet Boys songs, and it was just for fun what I did back then. But I took a look back at those videos now, and I said, wait a minute, my pitch sounds good. I mean, even back then. So it was kind of just a natural thing. I tried to hone it a little bit. When I was in high school, I joined the men's chorus, and I took private lessons after school. So that really gave me more of an idea of how can I technically just advance myself to sound better. But yeah, in terms of the pitch, I was always on. I have an ear for music and figuring out melodies and stuff like that. So from that point, I took drum lessons when I was about a sophomore in high school. So I actually started on the drums, and I didn't take guitar until I was 19 years old in college. So if anyone out there is in high school or early college and listening to this and saying, hey, I've always wanted to play guitar, but it's too late. Listen, man, it's not too late. It's definitely not too late. I didn't learn until I was 19. And the only reason I did is because I had a roommate my freshman year in college that was a virtuoso, that was incredible at guitar. And so I saw this kid, and I was like, how does he do this? So he gave me a couple lessons for about a year, and then I just self-taught from there via YouTube and Musician and all those programs that they have out there. I had a couple books and everything. And I drove my roommates crazy. I mean, I was committed to this. I knew right away, this is what I want to do. I want to master this until I can write my own music, and then that's where I want to take it. So that commitment came along with me being up until about 2 or 3 in the morning every night and just strumming chords and playing, and I would drive them crazy. I mean, I would play the song "Let It Be" and "Yesterday" by the Beatles just again and again, and I was bad back then. So I drove these kids nuts. And it wasn't until the end of the year where they started to realize, they're like, wait a minute, he's getting good. They thought I was just fooling around trying to mess with them. But that's always been a theme for me, is I will never ever let anyone or anything get in the way of my craft. They say, they say, that doesn't sound good, those chords are weak, or because back then it was. I mean, I was not good. I was trash. But all the naysayers would say that. They'd be like, oh, why don't you come out and party instead of practice? And I would say, no way. I would say, absolutely not. I will do this until the day I die, until I perfect every single thing that I want to do. And so that's a mentality that I've had and I will always have going forward.
Yeah. Oh, perfect, James. Excellent. You can't jump from point A to point D in a night.
Right. Yeah. We just brick by brick. That's every single day you lay one brick, but you do it perfectly, and then eventually you have a wall. That's
right.
The saying I live by.
Yeah, excellent, sir, excellent. And now you are out in Boston. You and the band are out in Boston. How is the scene out there? Is it super competitive? Is it pretty friendly?
For the most part, it is pretty friendly, pretty good, but there's a lot of competition at the same time. I mean, back when we were first starting out, we would try to get into sort of the open mic scene, right? Like before we could book our own places, we would just try to go out to the open mic scene and see what we could get done that way.
Yeah.
And we noticed the sort of like stiff competition out there in that we would go and play, and we would kind of see the bands that were already in, so to speak, right? Like with the in crowd that knew the owners, and they would come up for a set for open mic, and they'd get about 4 or 5 jam tracks. And then we would come on, back before anybody really even knew us, we would come on and we'd get shut down after about 2 songs. And we'd say, whoa, wait a minute. Why did the other band get 4? And they were jamming out for 20 minutes on that last track doing a jazz solo. So it really just takes a little bit of exposure, really just getting out there, getting to know the right people. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. In any industry, in any field, if you want to see success, you have to know the right people. Right? It doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, you have to be past a certain threshold of goodness to make it through the door. But from that point, if you can sing, if you can play guitar, that's the threshold. And after that, it's really just establishing these relationships with the owners and with the right bands, and just really getting to know these people. And so from that point forward, it's a very friendly scene. A lot of wide variety of music. People are pretty big on the punk scene, on the indie scene around here. It's actually a lot of jazz musicians too. We don't really go down that road too much. That's a little, to be honest with you, a little too technically advanced for some of us in the band. So we don't really go down that avenue. But again, we appreciate listening to all kinds of music. So we'll go to the jazz clubs and we'll hear these amazing jazz artists too. And even though they're doing different sounds, different, all of that, you can tell that the spirit and the inspiration that's there is really the same from one musician to another, regardless of what they're doing. So we want to go out there and we want to hear what everyone's doing, right? We don't want to leave any stone unturned in terms of comparing ourselves with what are they doing that we're not, or what do they have, what kind of sound they have that we can sort of mimic or make better. And that's one of the quotes I've heard is, good artists do not borrow, they steal. Right? So you want to hear, what are they doing that we're not? Okay, I'm going to take that they're doing and I'm going to make it better. And again, stealing in music is not necessarily theft, because what do we have in music here in the West? We just have the major scale. And I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, right, in terms of how you can combine those notes. I mean, everything that could possibly be created and made is already laid out. So we just want to take that and just add a new spin to it. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Excellent. And sir, I can definitely hear that in your music. Last night I was trolling your Facebook page and then trolling iTunes, and like you had mentioned before, you're genre-less, I guess I could say, and I listened to the first track on the album that you have up on iTunes, Curtains, and it was kind of this 90s rock feel, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he sounds like Stone Temple Pilots or something, and then it jumped to the next track, and I'm like, whoa, now there's some John Hyatt going on. Holy cow, what is this? And then another track sounded more like Tom Waits. And I was just like, okay, all right. That's why they say on their Facebook page under genre, everything. Okay.
We keep them on their toes. In the future, we would definitely aspire to make a more cohesive album in terms of genre. But it's our debut album, to get out there, our goal sort of was to just show people what we were capable of in terms of all of these different genre avenues. So it's kind of just like a word vomit, just like, we want to get everything that we have out there, right? Because we knew we were capable of all of these different sort of sounds and lyrical structures and stuff. So we just wanted to send it out, get it out, and then kind of see what the public reaction is, like what do they like the most, and then we'll take that piece, try to make a more cohesive album about that, and that would really be the thing that would launch us into, fame is not the goal, but I guess a more widespread influence. We want our music to influence people and try to sort of get it out that way.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. And James, you are up on Spotify, you're up on iTunes, you're up on Amazon. Your album is called Behind the Curtain by Voquel Kemistry. So if people are interested in checking that out or doing a purchase, they can totally do that. You got a Facebook page, you're pretty good at answering Facebook messages, so thank you for that. Otherwise, I'd be hanging here.
I try to check it whenever I can.
Right.
And just so the listener knows, you're not going to spell it right on the first time. It's Voquel, Voquel, Kemistry with a K. Just so you know.
Exactly. And now, James, do you do the band thing full time? Do you have kind of a part-time day job? How does this look for you right now?
Great question. So summertime is when I focus fully on the music because I am a teacher. So I teach high school Algebra 2 and trigonometry.
Whoa. I'm bowing right now.
That's what everyone says. Like, oh, no, not that one. I hate that one.
Hey, I could not pass, what was it, first year geometry math. So, I'm applauding you right now. I'm bowing. Good for you.
That's one of my things. And people say, people always ask me, how do those two relate? You're a math teacher and then you're creating melodies and songs. How do the two relate? Yeah. And I guess my answer to that is I've always loved patterns, right? Patterns help in math. And so when I'm looking and I'm listening to music, I'm noticing patterns. I'm noticing everything that they do in terms of their rhythmic structure, melodic structure. And again, this kind of goes back to why the Beatles are one of my biggest influences, because they're always changing that up. And with very few exceptions, I've noticed what most bands do is they kind of find a avenue that works in terms of lyrical and melodic structure, and they'll stick to it. They're kind of a little bit too afraid to change it. Like, oh, what if they don't like that, or what if it doesn't sound as good? But the Beatles were constantly changing, constantly evolving in that way. And one of the things I like so much about them is the fact that I can't figure out what I like about them. I can't figure out what makes their songs so good, because it's never the same thing. It's never the same thing, and it's always changing. And that is kind of what I strive to be as a band, is I want to be a band that's constantly changing, constantly evolving, hopefully for direction for the better, but even if it's for the worse, I still want to be evolving. Maybe we'll take a little dip, and maybe we'll go back up on the next album. But I think death to me as a band would be the lack of progress, to be stuck in sort of the same sound. That would be the worst case situation for me. So even if we do take a little bit of dip in terms of popularity, I would 100% sacrifice that for evolution and for progress.
Yeah, my advisor in college, so I went to school for videography. I can make movies, basically. I remember his parting words to me were, Crystal, you can't stand still. In order to be an artist, you have to evolve, and you have to change, and you have to keep moving forward. And I've held on to that for the last 9 years. I think I've been out of college now. And that really does ring true to a lot of things. I mean, once you kind of become stagnant, I mean, it works for some acts. Like, it worked for AC/DC. Their sound is there, you know what they're going to sound like, and, you latch onto it, or you latch onto a couple songs or whatnot.
Yeah.
But, there are a lot of artists out there that morph and change and flow and change with the time, like AFI. Those guys have never stayed the same. Yes, they have their, key sound, and Davey's got his key vocals, but they've always changed. They've flowed, and they've gone, more hardcore or more goth or whatever it is. Not to mention Davey changes his style every 2 years, so there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I love that mentality. If you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Right.
You're doing one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we always try to change it up and keep it fresh for the listener.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a number of curveballs behind the curtain that kind of come out of nowhere. Or more kind of rock and roll towards the front end of the album, with a couple slower songs, more melodic songs, and then you get to the later half, and it's just psychedelic madness. Is the best way I can describe it, and it kind of comes out of nowhere, which was the plan from the start.
Yeah, excellent. And now, James, where do you want to take this endeavor? I mean, do you want to sign on with a label? Are you looking at keeping it independent? Do you want to put out another album? Where are you looking to go?
We are, our biggest focus, I guess, right now is putting out another album. We have about 6 or so songs right now on that album. So one of the options that we might do is we might just put that out in about a couple weeks as an EP, or we might wait to flesh it out a little bit and get about 12 or 13 songs to put out a whole album. Because we do, at the end of the day, I write all the songs, right? So I'm constantly writing. So I have a bank, so to speak, of songs that my band hasn't even heard yet. So all we have to do is meet up whenever we can. I just kind of display whatever it is that I got, whatever insanity I've come up with lately. And they will sort of be like, oh, that one's good, that one sounds good. And the funny thing about our method is it doesn't always work. One of the songs that is a favorite of our fans, and honestly a favorite of mine too, is Many Years Gone, from our Behind the Curtain album, toward the later half of the album. And that song was really fleshed out by the band. So what I mean by that is when I wrote it myself and I was just playing guitar and singing that song myself, I was thinking, this is a pretty good song. Like, it's okay. It has a unique enough sound. Like, I like it enough. So I pitched it to the band. They said the same thing. They're like, well, it's pretty good. We might be able to flesh it out a little bit. So we played it. We added a ton of harmonies. We had a bongo drums in the back and a catchy little hook on lead guitar at the beginning, and it turned into, in my opinion, an absolute gem. And I would have never guessed that based on how it sounded with just me and the guitar. So it's one of those things you never really know how it's going to turn out, but that's part of the beauty of it. If you know that it's above a certain level of good, like, oh, this sounds pretty good, we just try to take it and run from that point and add whatever we can, and just get it to be the best sound that it could possibly be, the most unique sound it could possibly be.
Excellent. Yeah, I love the kind of more unique acts that are out there. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are good punk bands, there are good cover bands, there's, good music throughout the world, really, but to kind of grab that more unique sound it's something special.
Yeah, and one of our biggest goals, I would say, would be balancing uniqueness with catchiness, because I've seen, I guess, one of my biggest motivators is to look at pitfalls of what I don't like about certain kinds of music, and one of the biggest things would be the stuff that's too poppy, right? It's all about catching your ear, and it's really nothing about the message. So that would be one. And then the other one would be, I guess, something like Radiohead, right? Like, they're all uniqueness. They're only unique. And there's, in my opinion, my humble opinion, there's sort of really not enough of a hook, of a pop hook. So one of our biggest goals is to be as unique as possible while still sort of reeling in the listener and getting them to pay attention with that sort of poppy element of hooks and of vocal hooks and of lead guitar licks that are hooky, so to speak.
Yeah, excellent. Well, James, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, out on this Saturday to come talk to me here. Thank you so much for responding to the Facebook messages and everything else. I wish you luck on the new endeavor of the second album, and have a great summer.
Awesome. Thank you. You as well. Thank you for taking the time to talk and get to know my band. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, of course. And if I'm ever out in Boston or you come this way, let me know.
Absolutely. We'll stay in communication.
All right. Wonderful. Have a great day, sir.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye. And that was James from Voquel Kemistry. We'll take a listen to his song Years Gone By. This is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown podcast. I'm your host, Crystal. I'll talk to you next time.
She was standing there in a tight dress with mud all over her soul. She was lying on the floor by herself. Many years gone, many years gone. Standing on a tightrope with her fingers